style, and not that my style is right or wrong, but one priority that I have is clarity. Like, I really believe online that if you confuse, you lose. And so I want, I like simple fonts, I like readable fonts. Sometimes if things get kind of more too cursive, too Comic Sans, they just are hard to read. And so I like clarity over being clever or being kind of even cool, right? So just nice and simple, right? So we've got cool home office ideas. I still got my layer here if I want to move me a little bit over here, whatever. I'm looking right at the ideas, and beyond that, we're pretty much done, but there's a few things that I also like to do. I do realize that, think about your thumbnail when it's online, sometimes the title is over top, so if you can move text away from the edges, that helps. Also avoid putting text in the lower right-hand corner, because that's where the time code is on YouTube, right? Just thinking through those best practices. My final thing that I like to do, I'm gonna put a layer right above my photo, and it's gonna be levels. And levels gives me 3 sliders over here on the right that will really see to make the image brighter. And I can also pull it from this side and make it much more contrasty and make it kind of darker. So what I like to do is really get the thumbnail to pop. Something with, when it comes to thumbnails that people have studied is that you usually want to go a little bit of extra saturation. I can do another adjustment layer for that. I could go vibrance on here, and I could add a little bit more vibrance. It's gonna make it a little extra, maybe more than you would normally do if you wanted your skin tone to be more matte and natural. But again, a thumbnail is so small, you want it to pop. So that's a little bit of extra vibrance and saturation. The levels, you can kind of pull it up a little brighter. But if we want the background to be a little bit darker, kind of, and we're pretty much there. Sometimes this is a little bit more advanced. This is kind of just a beginner's thumbnail tutorial, and I encourage you, check out some training links in the description below if you want to go deep in Photoshop and really master it. But one of the things I like to do, I'm going to add a blank layer here, and I'm going to use the gradient tool. Make sure my gradient's on black, and so it is. And so if I drag from here, I can do a gradient just like that. That makes it, and I'm deleting it just to kind of, and then I can use opacity here to come down and just sort of even darken that edge so maybe this stuff pops more cool home office ideas. But at some point you could endlessly tweak, right? The details of something like this. So I think that really we're good to go, and that this should be a super solid thumbnail. So now our final step here is to just go File, Save As, and our final format. What I like to do is I keep everything organized on Dropbox by month, and that way we can I can get to it easy from my phone and whatever else. But what I really like to do is save the PSD, so I can always reopen it and edit it later if I need to. So I might tile, 10 cool home office ideas, and then I save that Photoshop file in case I want to open it later to use it, and then I'm going to say save as JPEG, and that is the exact file that we will upload later to YouTube as our thumbnail. Okay, so a few other things you need to know about thumbnails. And the first is, again, if you want to use Photoshop, I understand this was not like a super exhaustive tutorial on Photoshop. There are free ones of those on YouTube, or you can check out a site like Lynda. So I definitely recommend skilling up if you want to use Photoshop, but I think that some of the concepts can be applied here. Also, we'll be covering more thumbnail tutorials in the future here on Think Media, because we shoot them definitely outdoors, different variety, whether you're shooting by yourself or you have someone helping you. So look forward to those videos in the future, and make sure you're subscribed. Also, if you've been getting value out of this video, can you smash the like button? And here's what is next. The next video is now about editing. In part 1, we shot all the footage with the M50. In part 2, this video, it's all about getting the right photography and editing up your thumbnail. But then in part 3, I'm now going to edit the footage that I shot into our final video. This is all going into a video that you can watch on my Sean Cannell channel, so you can see the final product. So I'll link to that on the YouTube card and put it in the description below. And then, of course, in part 4, we're going to be talking about exporting it with the best settings for YouTube, helping walk you through concept to completion for creating content with whatever camera you have, but especially if you have the M50. Okay, hey, if you're still in the mega video, let me know in the comments section below. We just finished up part 2, all about thumbnails, and now I want to take the top questions from the Think Media community And the first one comes from Zachary asking, I'm not sure that mine do the best job captivating. My question is, how can I figure that out if I think that they're good? And you're right, Zachary. Sometimes we need to get feedback when it comes to our thumbnails. And so a couple tips. I actually like to design at least 2 thumbnails for each video, if possible, like 2 options, and then share those on social media. So a lot of times I'll post on Twitter thumbnail 1 or 2, and if you're followed by 10 people or 100 people, or maybe you have more people on Instagram, just ask people which one they would click on first or which one stands out better, and that can help you narrow down what people would actually click on. Because when we're just creating content by ourselves, it's hard to get feedback. My friend Jeremy also has a thumbnail Facebook group, and every week he says, hey, post your thumbnails where people can give each other feedback on thumbnails. So I'll make sure all of this stuff is in the resource guide that I put in the description below. And other than that, I think keep testing and try to get as much feedback as possible from your audience. The last tip is it's all about click-through rate. At the end of the day, YouTube in your Studio Beta analytics will actually show you the click-through rate of your videos. Now, a lot of things actually go into determining that, from the title to the topic itself, but thumbnail is a big determining factor of whether or not your videos are going to get clicked on. So make sure to study your analytics, and of course, subscribe here on Think Media for more tips about growing your YouTube channel in the future. Tim asks, what size should it be? I make all my thumbnails in 1920 by 1080 resolution. That's a standard 1080p resolution. I do that for a couple reasons. Last time I checked, it's what YouTube recommends. If you want to be future-proofed, you could design your thumbnails in 4K, but there is a size limit on the file size where YouTube will reject your thumbnails, so 1080p seems to be good. And I also don't like to do smaller than that. A lot of people will do like a 720 resolution, but I want to be as future-proofed as possible and use those same files to share on Twitter, to share on Facebook, to keep archived on my computer so I can use them later and have them in their highest quality possible. So 1920 by 1080 resolution. Daniel asks, how do you determine the right style and thumbnail for your videos and channel? It's a great question. I think a couple things come into play. Number one, what is your preferred branding? You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it, a lot of times people just copy other people on YouTube and they're just influenced by their style. But if you want to be different, like, do you want your branding to be clean and modern? Do you want it to be chic and stand out? Do you want it to be very hip and cool, or do you want it to be cartoony and kind of, gamerish and futuristic? Think about your branding, not just for your thumbnails, but for your channel overall. Secondly, if you do want to kind of ride the trends, ask yourself, what are other people doing in your industry that are winning? Like, what are the top-ranked videos? What do their thumbnails look like? If you're in fitness, what do the top-ranked thumbnails look like for fitness? If you're in cooking, what do the top-ranked thumbnails look like when you search certain search terms? And you get ideas from the videos that are performing well, you can take a few clues that maybe your thumbnails should be similar to those videos. However, it's sometimes smart to do something different than what everybody else is doing, so that should stand out. And then the last tip is just to test. You know what I mean? I think it's a combination of testing what your branding is mixed with what's working and what's getting the best click-through rate. Here at Think Media, we've been evolving our thumbnails a little bit. We're doing less text lately. We're doing more cameras and less people in the thumbnails, but we're testing. I can't even say that that's better than the past. We don't have all the data yet, but I think keep it fresh, always try something new, and don't forget to test and double down on what's working. My man Jaden asks, how do you add colors around your face? How do you add cool colors when you make thumbnails around camera tips? Just generally, how do you make your thumbnails have color, it sounds like? Well, besides the tutorial that I just shared, which was kind of a 101 basic going through Photoshop type of a tutorial, I have another video that's a little bit older, but it actually talks about how to use free software on canva.com. And there's a paid version too, but I'm pretty sure you can do at least a trial or use limited features in the free version. I'll link that video in the resource guide. And it's hard to explain in a Q&A like this. I think in some of our advanced trainings that we have in our members areas and whatnot, I do have some deeper dives of how exactly I make the thumbnails of video influencers and Think Media. I still do all of that thumbnail design myself. And so my biggest tip, if you want to go into that kind of stuff, would be to learn Photoshop at another level. I think it's the most powerful software, and you could use something like LinkedIn Learning. You could watch free YouTube videos about it. You could look at other Photoshop tutorials or a mini course on Photoshop, Skillshare, and I'll put some resources in the resource guide of things like that. If you go through a couple, take a weekend or take a couple weekends to really go deep in Skillshare or LinkedIn Learning on Photoshop, and then you're gonna have the skills needed to not just design powerful thumbnails, but to also design powerful graphics for your business overall. As content creators, come on, we need to be doing social media, graphics for our email newsletters maybe, graphics for our websites. And some of you as business owners are gonna hire that out, but some of you, that's a skill that you're gonna wanna learn. So either invest in the training to learn it. If you wanna go deeper in some of our stuff, of course, we'll have information in the resource guide. And other than that, check out that free Canva tutorial, because remember, done is better than perfect, so keep it simple and get your thumbnails out. Little Sparrow Redbreast asks, text or no text? And that's the ultimate thumbnail question. And I'd say a couple things. First of all, in my opinion, design aesthetics matter. So if you are using text or not, don't use too much text. Don't pack the thumbnail so that it's unreadable. Don't use fonts that are hard to read or confusing or that just disappear on the background. Don't restate your title in text on your thumbnail. But if you are going to use text, use as few words as possible. I like to use under 5 if possible, if not just 1, 2, or 3, like some kind of an emphasized type of a thing. And then I will also say that lately I've been trying to use no text. Of course, you can look at someone like a Peter McKinnon, who's like famous for these beautiful thumbnails, no text, and he uses his title to tell the story. Alternatively, you need to study your niche, because again, look at the top performing videos in your particular channel topic. Sometimes text is very important, because if you're doing a tutorial or a workout or a cooking video, and maybe the text on the thumbnail is actually going to be instructive or help bring clarity to what someone's about to watch. It has less to do with aesthetics and more to do with practicality. I think these are some of the things to consider. And then last of all, test everything. I think that's what we're doing here on Think Media. We experiment, we test, we want to find a design aesthetic that works with also a practicality and something that gets results. And so we're always testing and we're always experimenting with both, my little red sparrow friend. Say Jesse Crouch Crew asks, I just started doing this. Would there be any benefit to going backwards and adding thumbnails or updating the thumbnails to older videos as well? I do think there's benefit to this. When I was partway into my journey at Think Media, I had some early videos that were pretty good content, and the thumbnails, I just didn't put any energy into them at all. So once my design skills up-leveled a bit and I wanted to kind of refresh the videos, I took like a Saturday morning and I just went back and I updated my best videos. I didn't do my whole library. I think that might be wasted energy, but there was a few that I wanted to not only update, but then I re-promoted them, because then I had a new thumbnail, which gave me a new graphic to share on Facebook, to share on Twitter and say, hey, go check out this video. Video might have been 2, 3 years old, but now it kind of had a fresh look to it with the new thumbnail, and that also gives it a chance to rank and perform more in the future, because thumbnails are a big deal. If you can get people to click and watch your videos and increase that click-through rate and that average view duration and all of those important YouTube metrics in 2020 and beyond, it can be a game changer for your YouTube channel. So Ben asks, letting go of perfectionism is the hardest part for me. If you change your thumbnail later on down the road, does it affect analytics? Well, Ben, I love the question. First of all, I can totally relate. I mean, there are some days, some nights where I spend probably way too much time over analyzing my thumbnails. I keep tweaking them, I keep testing them, I change them, I lay in bed and I think, I wonder if I should have done it a different color, or if the logo should have been bigger. And then I sometimes will get up and change it more. At some point, Ben, you have to just let it go. Frozen 2, I don't think that song's in the movie. Let it go and release it to the world. Just put it out there Now, is there benefit to changing the thumbnail down the road? There can be. And there's two things here. Number one, it won't affect your analytics or it won't affect the algorithm. YouTube won't really know the difference. What they will know is if it gets more click-through rate on it, if it gets better engagement. And so friends of mine that really want their videos to perform well will test and look at their analytics after 3, 4, 5 days, see if their click-through rate is something they're happy with, and then they will go back and change the thumbnail if they think it could be improved. I never do that. I, at some point, make it as good as I possibly can, release it to the world, and then think about the next video. I really believe that for a lot of us, it's your next video that's going to be your best video, not worrying about over-optimizing your past videos. So done is better than perfect. Get it to a good level. Don't overthink it. Guess what? Something's probably wrong with it. Would blue have been better than yellow? Maybe. Would red have been better than pink? I don't know. If you did this face instead of that face, you kind of never know at some point. Forward action and massive action is always where the action is. And so, yeah, do it as good as you can and then put it out there in the world and on to the next video. Jay asks, I think I make an okay thumbnail for my videos. What would you say is the one element that can take it to the next level to be suggested by YouTube? Jay, the top elements for me are, number one, it's got to stand out. Now, that might seem obvious, but I mean, it literally needs to pop off the page in some way. If the colors are dull, if it's messy, if the image, if the story the image is telling is undiscernible, like it's just kind of confusing, then it's not going to work. What you want is it to leap off the page. So one thing to consider is also, if you're trying to like rank for a video, you want your video to probably be different than the other videos or just in some way unique so that it leaps off the page. If you said, what's the one element? Well, there's a few. I think color is a big deal. It doesn't have to be crazy rainbow colors like some YouTube, you know, just super bright and crazy. But I think some pop of color helps it stand out. We've also learned that emotion really helps it stand out. And I know as YouTubers, a lot of times we can go extreme and we're like, with our faces and then people just imitate that, and I'm guilty of that as well. But there's science behind it. People respond to emotion. Just no emotion at all gets less clicks. If you're happy or sad or confused or suspicious or there's drama and you do the scared face and then you talk about the coming doom and gloom because drama is popular and drama gets clicks, then you tie in all those elements together and those can make your thumbnails much more powerful. So I think emotion, I think color, and then I think clarity. At the end of the day, I think that less is more on thumbnails. If we try to get too many words, too many things, I try to think about ways to tell a story. If I want to say how to build a YouTube studio, I probably can't show the whole studio. You know what I mean? Because if it's too far zoomed out, unless it's a really clean shot, if it's too messy, if it's too busy, if you confuse, you lose. So how can it be colorful, have emotion, be very clickable, and how can you make sure it stays clear and tells the story that you want it to tell? This is a big challenge, Jay, but if you can pull that off, then you've got a winning thumbnail. Okay, so take a deep breath. You know, this YouTube thing is no joke. A lot of work goes into it, but YouTube is one of the most powerful platforms on the planet for getting your message out there, for building a life and a business on your own terms. And so learning this process and mastering shooting videos and creating content is a big deal. And so now we're gonna be going into the third part of the series, which is all about editing, right? We've shot our video, we've shot the photography for our thumbnails, we've planned all that out, and now we're ready to take all of our footage, we're gonna capture it on the computer, drop it in Adobe Premiere, and edit. And here's the thing, if you have some kind of a different video editing software, I think that you're still gonna get a lot of insights out of the editing psychology, as well as if you wanna use Adobe, that's what I use. I use the Adobe Creative Cloud, I use Photoshop and Adobe Premiere and Adobe Audition for audio, all under one roof, Lightroom for editing photos that I use for social media, and that's what our whole team uses as well. We buy different seats, and that way we're all able to be on the same software. And so we'll include links to all that kind of stuff in the resource guide. But now it's time to get into the third part of the series all about editing. So let's just jump right into it. So if you want to level up your content, editing is one of the best ways to do it. And in this video, I'm going to be going through a beginner tutorial on Adobe Premiere about how to edit a YouTube video. I'm also going to be sharing a few tips from my workflow and even some advanced insights. So let's just dive into it right now. Hey, what's up? Sean Cannell here with Think Media, bringing you the best tips and tools for building your influence with online video. And right now we're in the middle of a 4-part video series all about how to shoot, do a thumbnail, edit, and then ultimately upload a YouTube video so you can put out better content, grow your channel faster, and get more views. And if you actually want to watch part 1 or 2, in part 1, we did a whole video on shooting content with the Canon M50 or a similar DSLR or mirrorless camera. In video 2, we talked all about getting the thumbnail ready, and we're already done with that. And now it's time to actually edit our video. And so that's what we're going to be doing right now in part 3. If you missed out on the beginning of the series, I'll link it up on the YouTube card, as well as post a link to that playlist in the description below. But with that, let's dive right into how to edit a video in Adobe Premiere. All right, so step number 1 is take the SD card out of our camera, plug it into our card reader. In this case, I've got an extra long one plugged into my computer with this crazy cable, so I can just easily get to it. But whether you're on a laptop or you have a PC or some kind of a tower, you definitely need an SD card reader. Capture your footage, and right now I've already actually downloaded it into an external hard drive. And here's how I organize some of my files. I've got my footage folder, and this is all of the footage that I shot in video number 1, including the A-roll and the B-roll. I've actually got the music folder, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The thumbnails, we already created our thumbnail, but that's where I would save all the image files. And then I've actually got my intro bumper. Now, if you don't have one made, you don't need one, but this is just my little bumper for my Sean Cannell channel. And if you actually want to watch the final video, I'll link to that and post it in the description below as well. If you kind of want to see it either before or after, definitely check it out so you can see the final result. So what we're going to do is we have Adobe Premiere open. And if you've never used Adobe Premiere, it's a little bit more advanced, but I highly recommend it. So if you want to do a trial, I'll put a link to it in the description below. And I use Premiere for editing video, and then I used Photoshop to edit my thumbnails. And so we're going to do a new project here. And we are going to name it, right? So this was a Sean Cannell is the YouTube channel I'm posting this on, and it was a home office tour. So I'm going to do that, and we also, everything else here is pretty much good to go. And what's cool about Premiere lately is that it really understands, in the past you could select certain sequences and projects. This might sound kind of crazy, but you'd have different frame rates, and you maybe need to know some technical details ahead of time. What's cool about Premiere now is you don't need to know those technical details. You can just drop your footage in, and it'll know how to interpret it for you. So here is the Premiere homepage. It says right over in the lower left, import media to start. That is our first step, or we ultimately could drop the media right on the sequence place here, and then that's going to fill in these windows up here with other content once we do that. So I'm actually going to select all of my clips and just drop them straight into the sequence, because right now it's importing all of our footage from what we shot with the Canon M50. All right, so now the footage is actually all in the timeline. Right now in the lower very left-hand corner, you can see that it's conforming the audio, which actually means that those waveforms are kind of showing up on here. So here's what I mean. If we want to make our 2 main kind of visuals here a little larger, this is our first layer of video and audio. And here's what I want you to think about. Right now on the screen, we can see some of the preview footage. And if you remember in video number 1, we talked about A-roll and B-roll. And so essentially, if this is your A-roll, which is your layer video number 1 here, maybe we want to pull in some B-roll. Here's all of our B-roll clips, but we don't need the audio on there. So I just unlinked the audio. Now I've got that clip released. So I could be talking in the A-roll here, but then it could show the B-roll while I'm talking. Does that make sense? So there's the B-roll clip, there's the A-roll clip, and I'm able to just drag and drop and move things all around here in the timeline. And so I'm actually going to delete this because of the order, and I'm going to sort this by name to get all of the files in the order I shot them, because they were in some kind of crazy order when I first dropped them into the sequence. So now when I take these all into the sequence, here's the cool thing. The main video should just be all the way through here until this is all the main video that I shot. Here's my outro. And what I'm doing on the timeline here is I'm using the hotkeys minus and plus to zoom in, with plus, minus to zoom out. See that? So I can zoom into the edit. And so now, if I actually go to here, this was all the B-roll clips. So I'm gonna move those off to the right. And here's the deal. I actually don't need any of the audio on these clips. And so what I did is I right-clicked, I clicked unlink. And so just to clean it up, this is the way I do it, is I just taking this waveform to delete all that audio. This is all B-roll clips, makes sense? So those will go in later. What I'm gonna do is start with the A-roll, the audio here. And so I'll turn this up a little so you can hear it. And
creating, all right, setting up your home office in a way that, all right,
now, one of my biggest tips when it comes to editing is watching the audio. I've learned so much by being able to, obviously none of this matters, so I can just drag and hold and trim that clip down on the left because I'm restarting and messing up. And it looks to me like I'm actually starting like right here, so let me see.
Hey, what's up? Sean Cannell here, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a home office tour with a bunch of cool home office design ideas, whether that's ergonomics from the various chairs.
All right, messed up again. So now I'm going to look at this one.
Looking for some home office design ideas. You're going to love this video.
Now check this out. There's a hotkey called L, and I realize this is a beginner tutorial, but you're kind of seeing inside of my workflow. So the ways I go faster is pressing the L button to speed up.
6で展開3だけ的前6で
敵保護しちゃう。
Now, a tip there is having a strong hook in your videos, and that was the hook, that was the opener, right? So now I'm actually going to drop in from my file folder the bumper, and if you've got one of these created, what you can do is just have it start right after your intro ends.
キラーかけるね
Boom. So there's the intro, very nice. And now I can cut into the video itself. And the main thing I do is I just work through from left to right, basically, on the edits. And I try to look at the waveform to see when I maybe got the intro right. So it looks like I probably restarted it. Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Sean Cannell?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up,
There you go.
Sean Cannell
Okay,
here, and welcome
4
to my
tries.
channel, Hey, what's up, Sean Cannell here, and welcome to my channel, which is all about going further, faster in life. We're just meeting. Actually, it's full-time content over on my channel. Today, I'm going to take you on an office right now. Let's just start right here in my main office. So we're sitting here at my desk. I've got a couple monitors here, my triangle light from City here, and this is where the magic happens. Now, I actually have a full video out all about visual setup. Check it out on YouTube card. Let's go through some of these.
こんだけ離れてりゃあるから
But let's check out what's happening in this room. All right, we'll leave the YouTube card. All right. But let's start out. Let's start out with some of the decor. Let's start out with some of the decor.
結果論だよ
Let's start out with some of the decor.
All right, so getting rid of all this stuff, going back to the butt.
Below and put it up on the YouTube card. But let's go through some of these.
All right, boom. Little tip right there. One of my favorite features is I can right click in between and say ripple delete, and then just boom, bring it all back nice and clean. So if we replay this
for home office, coming up. Hey, what's up, Sean Cannell here, and
boom, and now we're going into the actual video. And so now you can see what I'm going to do is go through the rest of the edit of the A-roll. I'm going to be just trimming through all of the clips, bringing them back, and then we'll do B-roll after that.
So when I think of home office, all right. So one of the questions I get, so one of the huge priorities for me, so one of the big priorities for me, one of the big priorities for me in my home office is inspiration. I love inspiring quotes, motivational messages. I get a lot of questions about these kind of things. So these are actually startupfinance.com. And so I've got the board there. It's also shelves. Another big theme is ergonomics. In fact, one of my favorite features of home office is this Herman Miller very own chair. These chairs, these things cost a lot of money.
展開してるわけですね。
You are probably
前に出てる。
こうは。
いやーマジか。行っちゃった。
トゲ出て、ああ、ごめん、もしいけない。下手すぎ。
3入っ
1だけできない。
た。いや、4的な3的。
You are probably going to be.
バナナ量だこれ。
You are probably. You're probably
ごめん
going
よ
to be working a lot.
ちょっ
I
と
gotta Now another.
2的。
Here's the thing.
マイン的
You're
マイン
working
的。
a lot. I got this chair for years now, and it's indestructible, and it has micro adjustments to adjust the arm height, every little detail, so that you can keep it functional.
あ、これ。
指折れた。4的。
はい。
Microsoft
いやー、しないしない。
あ、3分間。
4入った。8分入ってる。
And that allows me to get
7で裏、あれだわ、8だわ。
まだ前に来
and that allows me to get perfect vertical control sitting here. And that's being able to work longer without.
て、言うと思っ
All right, so now let's.
1人
Okay, so one note. All right, now one of the tips we shared in the first video was when I'm in front of the video, I had the shotgun mic pointed at me, but when I got the behind the camera, I had the shotgun mic pointed back at me, but I was speaking like right into it. So the audio was a little bit louder. So what we're gonna do here in Premiere is I'm just gonna go audio gain -3 for now. And that'll let us go a little bit more quiet.
All right, so now let's check out the bookshelf. Now, all this furniture is from IKEA. I got all this from IKEA. I got my desk over here from IKEA. We moved to Vegas a few years back and just found the ultimate Craigslist deal. And I got all of this stuff for, I want to say, like $600 or something, just ridiculous, this little guide. And so that's kind of all the furniture. But over here, there's also an IKEA bookshelf. So you can see, I think got lifelong leaders or lifelong learners. I read a lot of books. I love to always be leveling out and working on myself. And then, just various decor ideas. This is from a South Africa trip. Another thing that I love is actually having atmosphere. A lot of plans, if possible, have them be reading. So you got succulents around here, got some up here as well. This guy right here, by the way, is the Influencing of Impact poster, just made custom online. Nice influencer tagline. A couple Kajabi pins for being in the 1 million club and a couple targets in our business. Super pumped about those. And some other, and some other, and then about those. And some other,
何もやってるし、解散繰り返し。
even some more vibes. We got a little, and then even some more vibes. Got the doTERRA. Next up, all right. Next up for design ideas, let's talk about light. And a couple targets in our business. Super pumped about those. Next up for design ideas, let's talk about light. I think that, especially if you're going to be creating content, it's nice to have a lot of light. And also light helps you stay energized when working. And so over here, I've got kind of like a LED light from Amazon. It changes colors, has a couple of brightness levels. Over the other side, a little IKEA light there. And put that one on. Actually, put it on this light really on right there. Got a little light there. And I've also installed a couple lights, kind of just custom. I mean, nothing really fancy. Obviously, the gnarly cables. These guys up here are on remotes. And so when I'm live streaming at this desk, we're actually shooting videos in front of it. And that there is a little air light that is controllable by this remote. See, that makes it easier. But yeah, lighting, something to consider. Is
いやー、もう死んだ。
あー押された。
yeah, lighting. Some,
落ちた。
but
So as we're getting through this, a couple things to note. I'm cutting a lot of things out. I'm also trimming restatement of some things. I mean, I noticed that I keep rambling on, and I think, how far back can I go? Can I just, like, if I can cut it, like if it doesn't add to the story, you might as well cut it out. So I'm trying to be, videos should be as long as they need to be, but as short as possible. So always look for ways to slim them down and to try to honor people's time when it comes to the
8
viewer.
ぐらい。消えた。
今入っ
and
た。
then
2歳
let's talk about power.
次やれるけど時計出てない。次や
And
る。
then let's talk about power. And then let's talk about power. Now,
はい、3。
マイ
now
ク
I
サイド
actually
死んだなっていう
am a power. Now for the modern entrepreneur
じゃあもう普通
or
に上がる。
content creator, let's talk.
上がり。
Now another cool idea is
もう金融機関。
now another cool idea
あ、
is
3やった。
サンダー聞いちゃったわ、思って。
One of the hotkey I'm using is spacebar to stop and spacebar. One of the hotkeys that I'm using is spacebar to start and stop the video. So I can use spacebar, L to speed up, and plus and minus to zoom in and out on the video.
now another cool idea is now another cool idea for the modern entrepreneur is power
あ
supplies. This
あ、
one.
消えたわ。なんか。
Now another cool idea for the modern entrepreneur and content creator is power supplies. This one right here, I've got plenty of outlets that I can get on.
なんか5年。
As well as this is cool and audio charge for my iPhone right there.
急で嫌いです。
Over the office.
何か死んだ。
嫌い
わかんない。
But now,
ごめん、嫌いで聞いてたかも。
3、5、
stuff
1。
and
23
But now,
2356
but now, let's look at a
Yeah,
couple
easy,
other
isn't it?
cool areas that I
Yeah.
love about this office.
秋人君気合で弾いた
And
か
the
な。ご
first
めん。
one is, of course, the
まあしょうがない
But now let's check out a few other area, a couple other of a few of my other favorite spots from this a few of my other favorite spots from this office before we head out into the loft. A few of my other favorite spots from this office before we head out into the loft is the lens and camera wall right here. Being a tech reviewer, camera fanatic, and
Where did
as
you
I go along, I brought up, I've built quite the collection.
Stand-up
I've built quite the, I've,
フラセッ
you
ト
know,
振
I've
りま
built
した。
quite the
どこや
I
What was
brought
that?
up, you
それ
know,
なんで
I've
お願いします
this for so long.
Yeah.
I've built
Avera.
quite the
危
collection
ね
of cameras and lenses, and so those all stay organized there. And then I'm also all about the organization over here. This little place where we've got a couple Peak Design bags that we'll travel out with. These little guys, these are perfect little satchels.
今前めっちゃ薄いから気に入って気づいたら前線になってるの
But
か
put
と
some headphones up here. I love these
Yeah,
headphone hooks like this. It's a cool home office idea.
まあいいよ
俺らが強すぎた
てる分には
Different events and jobs that we spoke at or attended or that we worked
キーちゃ
for.
んと秋人君と山子さんで一瞬で崩してる。
Another cool thing I want you to see.
俺何もしてねえ1位やっただけ
Another cool organization idea is headphone hooks. I installed this guy right in here, just screwed it into the
キ
wood
ー
desk.
ちゃんがやられてお前
I've
ごと
got
言って
kind
た
of
ら
my
やる予定だ
in-ears
った
that
ら
I use for the live stream that you can put any piece of headphone.
いやしてきた
おおめっちゃ押されるやんなんか落ちた
寝るか
Another cool organization idea is
Hi.
so instead of this guy right here screwed into the desk, I've got kind of my in-ears that I use for live streaming. Like a piece of headphone. Those are also headphones on the wall. To,
反応バナナと
4からちょっと書い
one
て
other thought before we head to the room, and that is
絶
this.
対俺
下に
Now,
俺も
now,
注意
so now in just a second, I've got a
Ah,
bunch of
shit,
other cool
that
things to share with you in the loft.
うん
To another session. So now in just a second, I've got a bunch of other cool things to share with you in the loft and the other office. But if you're loving this so far, smash that button and put a thumbs up and your office, and that's me.
2いくら
It's also something that you can like.
23滴3円
2バナナ置くわ
23
いさっきの
234滴
But I'm a big
All right.
ああこの後
Okay, so for a quick update, you can see on our timeline here, we have basically from the intro, we have from the book, we have the intro right there, and we've gone through all of this editing so far. Now, at this point in the video, I kind of make a joke about this little plant. So what I'm going to do is add a bar to this hill. I'm just going to add, so it goes into my project files right over here. I can drag it in here. It's my favorite way to add like a quick comedy beat. And this is just built right into Premiere. See that?
あ入った
So, and then right after I say succulent,
俺赤さん具合
essentially,
あ、山子さんともに
that's a nice succulent beep.
泣いて
And
る。
then it kind of resets attention, a little bit of humor.
34
耳垢な入れたら
9下さん的に
My goodness, delete all that. That's a nice succulent comic beep.
耳入ったわ
Got that? All right, we'll keep going.
But I'm a big atmosphere guy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I really want but I'm a big atmosphere guy and actually like but I'm a
okay,
big
so-
atmosphere guy. But I'm a big atmosphere guy.
うわ
いや、何その低いって。
Obviously, it's nice to look over the backyard and understand that our living conditions in the office and work are all varying and different. Maybe some things can change, but when possible, I like being on the second floor for the bigger vision of it. I like having the natural light. I like being able to look over the backyard, the living plants. I do little essential oils from the water and some breathe from doTERRA. And here, get the atmosphere right. And I just learned that when the office is, smelling good, looking good, light, inspiring, and that's really my best work. And so I'd love to hear from you some of those things that really put you in creative zone. So let me know in the comments.
くたくで
So there's just a little
なんで今最後死んだんだろ
All right.
う。なん
So
か、
that concludes
下で
this
言ってたら
office.
最後。
The comments. All right, so that concludes this office. But now let's head out to the loft. And so just kind of jump into here on the second story, and it's just a very expansive.
前からブーメラン飛んできて正解だった。
かかったんで
だからだから
引っかかったんだけど。
Okay, so that
なんだ、そこ
concludes
に
the
反対あるん
main.
だけど。
All right, so that concludes the main office, but we're really just getting started because now it's time to head out into the loft. And so this whole thing is based on the second story of our spot here. So our living space is kind of downstairs, mostly upstairs. We're using for kind of business and YouTube stuff. So play buttons, for the gold button coming to think media pretty soon. And then we've got more books and just obsessed with learning business, entrepreneurship. More to like
記憶力の問題だ。
some of the posters, learn ideas about these ones and back down to the court. And this main right here, one thing media cassettes, like I said, we catch that also. I'm like, that's right here, and there's and right here. And I'm going to try to here. So I'm going to here, yeah, I'm going to there, books and stuff like that. Here, and then my favorite one is a
下げる下げる
and
あ、大丈夫。会いに行く。
ちょっと何か人がいてどうでもいい
マジで失敗してる。
サンドイッチ。
サンドイッチこれ。
返事がないからできない
But let's
Say
keep
okay,
going.
okay.
Check out
なんか、
some more of the
なんか
office.
イエスター、
View of
FB 的に
but now let's check out like
あ入っ
that.
てる
あ、
Now
らしいの
let's
行くわ。
check out.
あごめん
Let's
FB
keep
でしょ
going and check out
ちょっと
some
ま
more
だ
of the office.
うわ、バナナですめっちゃ始まる。
2入っ
So if
て
there
る
was one favorite feature, be this Marshall.
前さん
If you were to ask me about one of my favorite features of this whole office,
トゲ引いちゃった。
あ、ナイ
it
ス。
would be this
まあいいよ。
Marshall
ポジです。
refrigerator. Here, you're gonna find a collection of soda
Ah,
water, sometimes drinks and stuff.
Toge Star
All
no.
sparkling
Oh, yeah.
water. It's a very cool feature. That is actually available on Amazon, and I love it. I get a lot of questions about it. So definitely check that out.
Collection
Link in the description.
なんでバナナ。
And speaking of charging stations, there's a power
まあ別にいいやろ。
strip right there. There's actually one that
High side, yeah.
right behind there that we pull out for lighting right here. And then we
Big
have a
sound
door
out
over there
there.
as well with the hotkey. This is where a lot of the gear happens. You know, not super clean.
Yeah,
The headphone hook, deal there. For the standing desk, you gotta have a little decor vibes as well. Candle for the fragrance.
してもいいな。
And because it's both hands,
でクリ
一旦
テレサボームね
テレサ的な。
テ
and
レサ的でボームがテレ
then
サ
over
いたわ。
here,
サンド。
あ
then
2
over
ま
here, it's all about.
Yeah,
Then over
I think
here, it's all about
it's
the
all-
wire. But then over here, we always like to have USB-C cables, all the different tools for whatever kind of. Then over here, it's all. Then over here, we always like to have batteries. Then over here, we always like to have battery charged up power banks, USB-C cables, all kinds of different cables, all the features for whatever kind of things we create. And over here, this is work in progress. Not super proud of this. We're just trying to stay as real as possible. Whether that's gear review, gear we have review, different microphones. This is kind of the tech that is on deck. Right here.
してるだけだから死んでも大丈
And then what takes us over here, a little decor. Okay.
夫おしたよ的な
Stuff that we want to cover. We haven't shot videos about.
クラ持ってたりした。
We share. But let's keep going. And check.
じゃあ、
If you were to ask me about below. And speaking of charging stations, there's a power strip right there as well.
ナイさんっつっても2
Candle for the
タグすら見えないもん。
as well.
あ
あき
あ
とくん
結構
早いよ。
途中荒れてたからね
Candle for
途
the
中2の
fragrance.
1前でめっちゃ
And
荒れて
because it's both
荒れてた
hands.
そう
But then over here we always like. But then over here we always like to have our batteries charged up, power banks, USB-C cables. Cool grid that we got from Urban Outfitters. This guy right here, gift from my mom, a movie reel. Hey, you got the little movie reel. And not that you asked, but this right here is the restroom for the office. And so we kind of tried to tie it all together. Somebody decorated this, my wife, a little bit of that triangle vibes. And that kind of takes us. Sorry. And that basically. All right. All right.
わわわわ。
And so far you've seen, and that kind of takes us, and that kind of takes us, and so far you've seen,
とりあえずの。
and not that band. But then over here, we always like to have our batteries charged up, power banks, USB-C cables, all kinds of different cables, all the different tools from my mom or a movie reel. And not that you asked, but this right here is the restroom for the office. And so we kind of tried to tie it all together. Somebody decorated this, my wife, that triangle vibes. And so far you've seen the bulk of the office. We're here in the loft, got all this gear set up, we toured here. But here's my wife. This is what fun.
こうテ
Alright,
ク
so let's
ス
check. Okay, so let's just check out the second office and prepare yourself because this one is a work in progress right now. Alan Omar, Highway, Madam Sheila's video, and
Yeah,
production
production
studio,
studio.
podcast studio, King Smith,
Mike, this.
training. These are from office storage, general affairs, like kids and technical.
いや、一応。
Shelving and some podcast
お
recording.
お、下がるわ。
So that'll be
2のアイテムね。
これ守っていいがいいしてるとい
赤色。
All right, so a quick check-in here. We basically have all of our A-roll, right? I told the story from beginning to end of walking people through the office tour. So now it's all laid out in the timeline up until this point. I did shoot the outro with a different lens, a little bit of a blurry background to kind of switch things up, just to show kind of the full use of the M50 as a kit. And so let me just cut to that outro. I think I can see it right on here. Again, I'm looking at the WAV file. You see how much I messed up, like 1, 2, or 3 times. and then eventually I know that when I start, the last time is the time I got it right? So I can always just get rid of the beginning of all that stuff, and then
So thanks for coming along with me for a quick tour through the media offices. If you want to see any of the various support or products that I mentioned,
보상
go to the
시간.
description below.
気にやった。
If you have any questions about the home office, things that I cover or something that and also let me know what you want to keep you inspired and productive. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thanks again for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
boom. And there's the whole video. So look what we've done. We've got the whole A roll laid down. And then the next thing I'm gonna do really quick is create the end card. So I'm gonna open up Photoshop to do this. Now, I've already spent the time building a template, which allows me to have the subscribe button up there. Remember that when you have an end card on YouTube, it can be a maximum of 20 seconds. So I already have this template created, so I'm just going to change the top video call to action that will end up on this video. I'm going to give a link to maybe a different video I've done. So how to make money on YouTube, great. And then watch another video. That one will be recommended by them. So all I have to do here is go save as. I'm going to drop, JPEG on that guy and throw it in a most recent file. How to make money on YouTube. And watch how cool this is. Now all I have to do is